do it on my YouTube page
Oh,
and with y'all. Hey, what's going on? This is your man Terrence J. We are here at the last podcast. I know you guys are looking like, wait a minute, that's not Shannon sitting there.
it's
And no, it's not. It's not. And shout out to Shannon. She had a family emergency she had to get to. So you guys keep her and her family in your prayers. But we wanted to do, y'all know, anytime she's not here, I do a special thing called Last Podcast 101, where I get a chance to sit down 101 and talk to somebody I find very interesting. And this week, I have none other than Miss Marlissa Collier. Her Instagram is I Drink Politics,
not.
and y'all know, staying true to the form, we had to pour up to make sure that we stay true to her name
Because I drank politics.
because she drinks politics. And I'm gonna tell you, if you do not follow, I drank. Y'all know we don't say drink. I drank. You know, some of y'all might think that it's past tense, but I drank politics. Make sure you go follow her on Instagram. We'll make sure to keep giving you her name because I look at her page and she does this thing called the 5 things you need to know. And I promise you, I am smarter by the time I finish all 5 things.
Man,
So
you're gonna make me bring that back.
listen,
You're gonna make me bring it back. Don't do it.
I'm telling you, every time you would do that, I would be like, okay, cool. So and then it gave me reference points if it's something I missed to go back and say, let me check this out and let me look at this. So
Yep.
so we would love if you were to bring that back. But
All right. For you, I've been thinking about it.
man,
See,
dope.
I
Yes.
feel like this is God being like, I told you.
Yes.
All right.
That was listen, when I saw you and I said, yo, your 5 things you need to know is a whole show on its own. And I mean, it was very concise and to the point. And I knew, I said, look, even if you were to slow that down and give even more points to it, it's gonna be fire. But just to know that I can come and get some information because it's something in that. If you're aware of what's going on in the world at all, there's going to be something in those 5 things that's going to have you saying, okay, I need to know a little bit more about that, right?
Yeah.
And so but you know, the thing is that I think it was probably now been about 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years since we met.
Mhm.
And so since then we had a conversation. Now I'm gonna tell you something. Now you probably don't remember, but the first time we met, we had a conversation. Your friends came to check and make sure you were okay. They came, you said they were just checking to make sure because we were just over to just talking
I'm
about
sorry,
certain
where
stuff.
were we?
We were at, and I can see it in my head, but I can't think of it. I think it was somewhere in Arlington.
Okay.
We were at something. It was at Reggie Calhoun's conference week that he had, and so it was like the pregame to his conference.
Yep.
And so
Okay.
so we were talking so long, and people were like, yo, girl, you okay? So he was like, no, girl, we just talking. So, but the conversation was so good that we have always said we wanted to be able to do it again. And so that's why I'm so glad that you accepted my invite to come back on.
4 years later.
4 years later, we finally get a chance to do it.
Crazy.
Yes. Listen,
But we here now.
we here now. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Hey.
Listen, make sure to follow us on Facebook. It is The Last Podcast 1 on Facebook. On Instagram, it's _ The Last Podcast. And on TikTok, it is The Last Podcast. You guys know that we are streaming live from our Facebook page and on our YouTube page, The Last Podcast on YouTube. Just go there. You'll be able to see it. We're live right now. And also, like I said, on Facebook, The Last Podcast 1. So you'll be able to go in there. There's another Last Podcast, but we're the best one. And that's why I put 1, because we the best.
That's
podcast.
the almost.
Yeah,
last
that's the
podcast.
almost.
This
is
is
the last podcast. And y'all know why we say that, because depending on what we say or what we do on this show, it could be the last podcast. So we're always getting threatened to be canceled. But
we are in those times.
We are in those times. This could be it. Somebody could come and say, nah, y'all done.
Oh, live a little.
Yeah. So also shout out to everybody who made sure to tune in and just follow me on my journey as I am the new morning show host at Smooth 88.1 WHOV, the essence of HU on the Gospel Express with TKO. So shout out to my co-host Kim up there. I do appreciate you for allowing me to come out and do the experience. Hampton University was great. I'm telling you guys, I am an honorary Hampton. I don't know what they call it, Hamptonite. I don't know what it is, but
I think that's what they call themselves.
yeah,
Or
listen,
something. Yeah.
listen, I'm one of them. Okay, so I've already I got the clothes, so y'all gonna see me in a bunch of HU gear. So but that's where I'll be working in Virginia. So I'm so appreciative of that. I wanted to do a morning show for a long time. And I told a friend of mine, which was my co-host at the time, Lady Z, I said I wanted to do a morning show.
Mhm.
I don't know where, when, how. I have no earthly idea how this is going to happen. And I knew it. I believed it.
That's it.
And I kept working. And 7 years later, I get a phone call. I didn't apply for it. I didn't ask for it.
Man.
They called and said, "Hey, I want you to be my host. Would you do it?" Absolutely.
That's master manifesting right
Yeah.
there. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You hold it in your purview and you work towards it, right?
I
The
work-
things that you're doing.
The things I
You're
was
working
doing
towards
was
it,
working
yeah.
towards so and then when that opportunity came up, they was like, I want you.
That's amazing. So it's a gospel show?
It's a gospel show. It's a
Okay.
gospel
So
morning
you can't
show.
cuss on that show.
I can't cuss on that
Okay.
show, but I can say shit on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
this is
shit,
different.
Just for, shits
Shits
and
and
giggles.
giggles. You know what I'm saying?
Shit.
Shit.
Hitting to the
Yeah.
gospel
Yeah.
crew. I am also a Kojic child, so if my
Listen.
pastor's watching, sorry.
Yeah, ain't done with me yet. Okay, and as my pastor is watching, it ain't done with me.
No, he know me.
And pastor's always trying to say we're not gonna do that right now. So shout out to everybody up there in the Virginia Hampton Roads area.
Sure.
But we're gonna do our weekly rundown, and the weekly rundown is just giving you our takes of things that have happened since the last time we had a chance, opportunity to see you. Last podcast always gives you our version of how we see things, and this is no different. No different when Melissa sitting here. So she drank politics, so we're gonna get into some political stuff, and also, even if it ain't on the docket, if she decides to go in, we're going to go with it. All right. So let's get into it. We got breaking news. The tariffs are not the breaking news. The pause on the tariffs is the breaking news.
Yeah.
So Trump today said that he's going to put a 90-day pause on the tariffs on all the countries except China. And so the stock market went up 2,000 points today. Everybody is rejoicing. All of the investors start saying, "Oh, okay, well, cool. We can start doing this again." Now, they understand it's only for 90 days. Now, we'll say this. I don't know if I don't know what the count is for the sale of TikTok is, because it was supposed to be posted for 90 days and then it kind of just went away.
It was delayed as well.
It was delayed.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are saying, Trump's 90 days are really not 90 days. They're kind of like, I'm going to do something and then I'm going to do 90 days knowing that the general population's attention span will kind of just go away if I decide to not do it in 90 days.
Yeah.
But the 90-day pause in the tariffs right now has people feeling relief. They were looking at 401ks. They were trying to see how much they went up. But I'm going to say this. Everything that you see is not what it seems.
Oh, yeah.
And I think with this administration, I think we have to be able to really look deeper than what the surface is, because there's always a play on top of a play on top of a play. 100%. And unfortunately, we can also see that some of these plays don't even have it's not a future play set up. They just keep moving and doing different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at one thing and you look and say, okay, well, what is this? They change their mind like the wind sometime and do something different.
Yeah.
But I know you said you had a different take on what the tariffs was for Trump, and then using all the countries, especially, and then changing it for China.
Yeah. So let me say this. I'm a populist, right? Like, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I am rolling with whoever is meeting the needs of the people. I'm not a gang member. Okay. So here's one of the issues that I often have when it comes to like this very polarized political climate that we're in. It's almost like if I stood on the left as a progressive, right, and looked over and was like, actually, that's not a bad idea. What the right is doing right now, the left would freak out, right? Because how dare you agree with something that the right is doing? Here's the thing about the tariffs. If there is a strategy to bring manufacturing back to the United States, then targeted tariffs would have been a good idea. When you look at China in particular, how many of us are dependent on Chinese product? Right. Think about everything that's on this table right now. How much of it do you, and what we have on our bodies, how much do you think of it came from China?
Probably 99%.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So the whole goal that really economists are saying is, hey, we need to get out of the trade deficit, right? That was the whole goal. Now, this blanketed thing, it didn't make any sense. It wasn't targeted. And that was my whole suspicion with it when he rolled it out. I was like, hold on, something's not right. Because if you're saying we're going to use tariffs to bring back manufacturing, how long does it take to ramp up manufacturing? Years, right? Sometimes decades, depending on what you want to manufacture. So I'm like, something is going on here. Here's my opinion of what happened. Okay. He wanted to force China into a trade war because they really do own the biggest deficit when it comes to, American trade. But I also truly believe that he wanted to force other countries to negotiate. China is really the only country that can box with us. And that's why we're seeing this back and forth, right? That we saw today. That 90 days is to give those other countries the opportunity to come to the table and say, hey, do not put that tariff on us. We'll lower ours, right? Do retaliatory, we'll match your tariff, whatever. The other thing that I genuinely think happened, I wish I had because it's kind of my conspiracy theory. Here's what I think is going on. We saw the market freak out the other day, right? Major sell-offs. Worst day, what in 16 years?
Yeah,
you said?
yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Worst day. And we're seeing like people like freak out and Trump is saying, hey, be cool, be cool, be cool. Market tanks. Then all of a sudden, an hour before he makes his announcement about the 90-day extension, he goes on Truth Social and says, now would be a great time to buy. He dog whistles. It is my belief that this was market manipulation. I believe that very wealthy people got even wealthier.
Yes.
Because when you have that major sell-off, you're going to see trillions of dollars in value disappear from U.S. stocks, right? The markets. Well, then that shit gets really, really cheap.
Yes.
And who can go buy it? People who got extra money.
Extra money. Yeah.
A lot of people are rejoicing only if they had money to put in.
Yeah, true.
If you sold.
Oh, yeah.
Shit out of luck.
Yeah.
I literally told my followers the other day, I was like, do not go look at your investments today. On the day the tariffs were like announced and they went into play.
Yeah.
I said, go to the gym or something.
Yeah.
Like go start you a garden. Figure out something else to do. Today is not the day to go look at your investments because you're going to want to react.
Yes.
And it is my belief that all of that, those two things were done on purpose to get China into a trade war, to get the other countries to negotiate on one side. And then the other side was to make his very wealthy friends a lot of money. And they made a lot of money.
They made a lot of money. And I looked at it similarly to how you did, was saying, once everything drops, if you got a bunch of money, you can buy up a bunch of stuff. The ideal that I believe is to allow all of the big corporations to really usurp all of the power from all of the middle ground, the small businesses, actually even us as regular home buyers, because we also know corporations own so much real estate. Buying up houses. So if we tank the economy, that's the less you can afford. The more properties come up because of your foreclosure and everything else, the more that can get taken up by your bigger corporations. So it's all a game to make the rich even richer, which for some reason I can understand. When you have the poor whites that look at the poor blacks and think that we are the issue, when you don't have enough money to even play in their ballpark, but yet you keep falling for the same trick to go through. And when I say poor white people, poor black people, what I mean, if you got to get your ass up and go hit a clock every day, you ain't got no money.
Yeah.
I don't care if you make $175,000 a year, your ass broke, because I guarantee you, miss 2 checks and see where you are.
That's it. So
you have to get up and work every day. The ideal for most people in this country is to be able to have enough money to pay for a decent place to live, be able to afford food, send their kids to school, and possibly even start a business or save some money. That's what the average person wants. But there's so much hatred that goes on, and there's so much manipulation of the mind of what you see the Republican Party do to say, hey, you will never be us, but you sure as hell won't be them.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it's an age old trick, right?
Yeah.
Like, even think about when our ancestors were enslaved. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me scoot up to the table as my mama used to say. Scoot up to the table. Even when our ancestors were enslaved, right? You had like these indentured servants, right, that would come over and they would have to live in almost the same conditions.
Yes.
As enslaved, Africans who were stolen and brought over. But they were always treated just a little bit better, right? Maybe they weren't forced to, stay in the same shack. Maybe their shack had wood floor instead of a dirt floor or something like that. And so they created these small differences that said, hey, even though you're almost just like them, your skin's a little different. And because of that, I want you to make sure that like those animals don't get out of control. So not only did they tell them like, hey, you're not us, but you're not like them. And I'm going to give you agency to put them back in their place. When they get out of line, because you're a white man, you can tell them to get it together.
Yeah.
And so there's this sense of like, power over us. And like you said, it's manipulation of the mind. It's all manipulation of the mind. We have seen, honestly, white people feel like they can tell us where we can and cannot be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we work in the same job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we on the same clock.
Yeah. On the same clock.
And for some reason you feel you have agency over me, but all of that has been passed through the culture. It's been passed through our society. And so you're 100% right. But I think now, crazy enough, I think that's one of the reasons that social media is so powerful, because now you're bridging that gap that was always between, these people, right? And the people who weren't Republicans and weren't rich, but also weren't the blacks. And now they're starting to see each other. And I think now there is this awakening amongst poor white people who are saying like, damn, I really got lied to. Like this man told me that this was my country. He was going to take it back. He was going to make it great again. And I'm losing my farm. Eggs are still $7 a pop.
Yeah.
My kids are still being shot at school. I think the manipulation sadly has torn our country apart, but I also think that people's racism and their wanting to punch down on another group is going to leave them vulnerable to that manipulation. I actually don't think it's going anywhere.
Absolutely. No, I don't think it's going anywhere. But I love the signs when I start to see people kind of get this aha moment. Right. I think anything, with time, gets better. And we got to understand this country is not that old. And from its, from 1619, when we first was dropped off, for the people who were shipped over to now, we're not talking about that long of a period of time. But the funny thing about it is, when we start to see all these people now come to this realization that, no, he's not giving this country back to us or whatever the case may be. And then they want to go out and have these protests and we don't show up.
Oh, that was what'd you do on April 5th?
Listen, I was chilling.
Yeah, me too. I had a great day.
Matter of fact, I forgot they were even happening. And I looked at the news and I said, oh, wow. They're protesting.
Oh, look at that.
Let me see how this goes.
Huh. Oh, you watched it?
No. I saw clips and I was like, look, let me see what comes out of this if anything happens. And the thing is that more so than anything, we talk about this on the show all the time. Boy, they are looking for black women to step up and come to the forefront.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, okay, where the black people at? And so I saw a white lady on TikTok said, you know what? I understand why they set out now. She said, I went out to the protests because I was protesting things that I didn't like for myself and for them. And she said, I got out there and I realized they wasn't there. She said, but the protest was so safe. And I realized why they were safe, because the police was not there. And she said, I know if the black people would have came, the police would have showed up to antagonize them, to create a problem.
Look at the difference between Black Lives Matter protests and January 6th.
Yes.
Y'all had snipers out for Black Lives Matter. And that is black people protesting being killed. Like that was the protest, right?
Yes.
Is we don't want to be murdered with boots on our necks.
Yes.
That was the protest. January 6th, they were mad that they lost an election.
Absolutely.
A democratically sound election, and decided that they were going to run up into the Capitol with Confederate flags, which in my opinion is actually treason, because like that's a whole nother country and you lost. Why are you flying your flag in the United States Capitol?
And you lost.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the difference in response, right? The lack of militarization of the police response. And a lot of people were trying to have this debate about like, well, maybe Black people are just more violent. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, because number one, who we learned the violence from? Y'all the best teachers we could have ever had.
Absolutely.
And second, it is a known fact that when we are in places, again, they feel like they have agency over our bodies. They have the right to police our bodies, and that's part of it. The other thing that I will say is that when Black people protest someone being shot in the back, running away, or having the breath dragged out of their bodies for, 8 minutes, there is a level of trauma that rises in us.
Yes.
Because of what we know our history to be, but actually, like, honestly, epigenetics, right?
Yes.
Like, it's literally in our genes for this rise to come. And so when you see Black people tearing shit up, understand that that is all of those things bubbling that they haven't been able to say at the job.
Yes.
Or, when that officer pulled them over for no reason, or when they experience that microaggression, all of that shit sets. And when they have a moment, sometimes it is going to come up. And I don't think you can blame people. Like, you can't throw a rock and hide your hand. Y'all have been throwing rocks for months and years at a time. And then all of a sudden the chickens come home to roost and all of a sudden Black people are violent. No, you have to be honest in saying they've been dealt a shit hand in this country.
Yeah.
And they have the right to tear some shit up when they see one of their own being murdered in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Yeah. And without you trying to point out any other thing that's going on within our culture, because everybody has something going on in their house. The fight is, we're tired of you coming in and trying to regulate everything that we do. Like you said, agency over our body, over our being, over our life. You have to understand, when you go through and you take people on as slaves, you are saying, I control you.
That's it.
You do what I say.
When I say it.
When I say it and how I say
That's it.
So we get to a point where we're like, look, I'm not trying to hear, because what's the first, what about Chicago? I'm not trying to hear about Chicago.
Oh, let's talk about Chicago though.
Yeah.
Like Chicago is I'm so sick of Chicago being used as an example. You drop some kids off in the middle of a place that has limited resources. They're fighting over the 2 jobs that you got.
Yes.
The schools are underfunded. Everyone is struggling to eat.
Yes.
And you would scrap for the little bit of scraps that's there too. So do not look at a Chicago where y'all drop off weapons and you divest constantly. And then those kids have nothing to do outside of scrap over the little bit that's left. Or
also, and I'm glad we're talking about this because, we talk about, the projects, right? And what's a project? It's something you construct. It's a project, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at Chicago, is known as the most segregated city in America. What happened is all of the factory jobs, all of the trade jobs were taken out of the south side of Chicago, moved to the suburbs. The actual freeway system in Chicago was created to allow you to drive from downtown across the top of all these Black folks out to the suburbs where the jobs were and where the white people were and had their houses, because, okay, we have you confined into this area. We'll move all of the work out and we'll build a freeway system.
Yeah.
So when you talk about Chicago, you have to talk about even the systemic problem that was created that you have made and say, let's see what happened and have them kill each other off. Because that's you basically watching like, hey, let me just watch these people fight it out.
It's what, they clone Tyrone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, it's
the same
it's a
thing.
study, right? And and people in Chicago have to watch wealth go over their heads, back and forth from their houses to their
Yes.
Right? The L train, like it's the L, right?
Yes.
It's elevated. It's going over your head. So money is moving over your head all day long.
Yeah.
Opportunity is moving over your head all day long, and you are stuck down there having to watch.
It just go right on the top of you. And so to use that as your calling card really highlights the fact that you are willfully ignorant about what actually goes on. Because I had one guy tell me, he said, well, I don't believe in systemic racism.
So what?
And I said, really? I said, would you say that banks are a system? He said, yeah. I said, so you heard the banking system, right? So I laid out all of the ways that they would not give us money for homes and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what you think of the school system? I talked about how the school system have been disproportionately funded. I said, what you think? So I named all these systems.
Prison.
Justice.
Look,
I named all these systems. I gave him real life things that are happening that he couldn't refute. And I said, that's systemic racism.
And what did he say? You still don't believe in it?
Well, I ain't talking about that, but I think that's something different. I say, I bet it is. I bet it is.
Wow.
But,
yeah, that's willful ignorance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you have those conversations, but to the tariffs that Trump has put in place, I love the point of view of saying, yo, this makes everybody else goes to the table, but this also gives my buddies an opportunity to buy low. Because guess what? As soon as it dropped, and as soon as they triggered it to go back up. And so now it's a blip on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
because one thing we know, Donald Trump does not want to be the president over a recession or a depression.
Oh yeah.
Because his ego can't handle that.
Yeah.
This right here, if you would have to zoom into the chart after we go through a little while, it's a blip on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it? It was a manipulation to allow people to make money.
I mean, I heard that there's a congressman, I wish I had his name right now, who is like calling for an investigation into what he's calling insider trading. It's absolutely market manipulation. It's absolutely. And so, one thing I can say, I have a couple really good friends who do finance content, and they were all telling their people the same thing, like, do not sell, like, don't freak out, relax, calm down, everybody be easy.
Yeah. And if anything, go buy something.
If you got it,
follow the money. Do what the money does.
If you got it, yeah. So I mean, I can say that I held my positions.
Yeah.
So I'm all right. And I mean, let's be clear in that the market did recover. It's still not to where it was though before. But I mean, it had a beautiful day.
Exactly.
Right. And as countries come to the table to negotiate, we'll see what happens. China, though, in my opinion, that was part of the play, was to get them to start a war. And I think that's the play he's going to use to say, well, we need to bring our manufacturing back here anyway. Because like you said, 99% of what we have here was probably made in China.
Yeah.
Now, my problem is it's going to take years.
Yes.
Years.
And here's the question to that. Is the workforce here? That would want to do those jobs.
That's the thing. So I actually think that people here would like to make things with their hands. I've been in corporate. I was in corporate for 15 years. And really the bane of my existence was that I never got to see anything tangible that I created with my shuffling of emails and information all day, right?
Okay.
So I actually do think people would love to see their work like come into fruition, whether it's content, whether it's an airplane, you know what I mean? But the problem is, will the companies even pay the wages? That's the main issue. A lot of our corporate executives and shareholders and owners moved their manufacturing overseas because they knew they could get away with paying pennies on the dollar.
Yes.
And so when you bring manufacturing here, you have to pay a livable wage, and a livable wage in the United States. What's the average American make right now?
The average American makes it's just under 50,000, between 45 to 50,000.
So imagine paying a workforce of 200,000 people, right? Say you're manufacturing planes, I don't know, right? You have to pay all of them an average of 50,000 when you could send a lot of that overseas, have it manufactured there for pennies on the dollar, and then you just ship it back here and have it assembled.
Yeah.
And now you only need maybe 25,000 people instead of the 200,000. So yeah, I think that the owners are going, and that's the other part that I didn't like about this whole plan. There was no real, hey, come to the table with me and talk to me as an executive and as an owner, right? And as a shareholder about what this means. There's been no like real pointing of the finger as to why our manufacturing went overseas in the first place. So no, I think the workforce is here. I don't think the salaries are here.
Yeah. I think that's a big problem is making sure that you can get everybody paid for what they're gonna want to make and to do those jobs, and then what that does for the cost of the goods here.
That's it. I've been telling kids, I've been telling people in their 20s and 30s, honestly. One of the things that the United States needs, we need tradesmen, right? When's the last time you walked down a street and didn't see a bunch of potholes, right? Like, we need plumbers, we need electricians.
Yes.
Like those are all dying
Yes.
crafts.
Yes.
And I know, we've been taught that being a rapper and a content creator and an influencer is the sexy job. But at the end of the day, like, you're not really creating anything for society.
Mhm.
I've been telling my nieces, my nephews, my sisters, like, hey, find a trade that you really like.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, find something that you can put your hands to. That's where the money is going to be.
Yes.
Like, the money is going to be in keeping this country built.
But you know what? That's where Black people made their money at in the 60s and the 70s.
Say that.
We made our money through trades. But what happened is chasing the white ideal of success.
Yep, there you go.
We said everybody must go to college. Everybody is not built for college.
Mhm.
And I love getting information from people that are outside of America. So if I get a chance to befriend somebody who is a quote unquote foreigner here, I start asking them about how did your culture do this?
Yeah.
A friend of mine was Nigerian. He said, listen, your parents at a time you start to get up and get close to college, they know if you are a college student or not. And if you are not, you're going to trade school.
I love it.
And he was like, they know if you're stupid or not. And they know if you can't do college. And they honest. And he was like, nope, you're doing this and you're going to trade school.
Here's the thing. It ain't even about being stupid.
Well,
Are you lawyer material? Are you doctor material? Are you engineer material?
Yeah, you're right.
If the answer to all those are no, what else are you an amazing chef?
Yeah.
Listen to the culinary school,
True,
right?
true.
Like, I think it's about being them small churches, everybody in the choir can do a solo.
Oh, yeah.
We need to stop that.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't a solo.
Everybody in solo.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
some of y'all need to sing the background.
That's it.
Yeah, harmonize.
Just be an alto today.
Yeah.
You don't need to be on the big mic.
And thank you for the correction, because for me, I do understand that being able to go through and get a trade is not stupid. He would now, in a Nigerian culture, doctor,
lawyer, engineer. That's all
it.
you get.
And so his words were, hey, your parents know if you're stupid or not. You can't be that. But if you are someone who has a trade, I'm not saying that. I want to be clear with that, because I have been a proponent of saying, listen, the trades is where the money is.
Mhm.
It has always been where the money is, because we have watched people come into this country and take on those trades.
That's it. Clean up. Yep.
Guess what? Right now, you're having a hard time trying to find people to work on your house, because a lot of people are not coming to work, and a lot of people have, either if they have not been deported, they're scared to come outside, or they have went back voluntarily back home because they didn't want to be arrested and sent back to some crazy prison in some foreign country they're not even from. El Salvador. Yeah. So I talked to a guy. I said, hey, I need some windows in my house. He said, man, it'd be 2 or 3 months before I can even get a window here. He said, I have roofing issues, and I call my roofing guy. Now, this is a guy who works in the home supply business. He said, my roofing guy told me, hey, man, if I can find somebody, I'll come out there. But right now, I don't have anybody.
Imagine that.
So now we don't have the people here to even do that. So the work is in the trades. The money's in the trades.
That's real.
So what I wanted to talk about also, as we change stories, we've had something that happened here in the DFW Metroplex, which we are actually recording from. And there was a story about Carmelo Anthony, not the basketball player. And I know a lot of people that Carmelo Anthony. He was at a track meet. Carmelo was bullied by Austin Metcalf, and Carmelo defended himself and unalived Austin Metcalf in what was described from some witnesses as a self-defense act. Right now, he's been held on $1 million bond. He is still sitting in prison. His bond is more than a police officer in the same area has gotten for killing people that we know the names of, like Atatiana Jefferson and Bolton John. And he's still sitting in prison right now. There is a fund that has, and we'll talk about that has been going around, and it has been able to raise, I think, close to $300,000 so far, because we don't like the way that this kid has been painted.
For sure. Yeah.
I think one of the things we want to talk about, the narrative that has been put out here on Carmelo.
And I mean, before we even get to that, the narrative, that has been painted around Austin. His parents were very quick to come out and make statements about who he was, and his dad called him a leader of men, which I thought was a very interesting description of a 17-year-old. But yeah, I mean, he's been painted as this all-star, athlete and student who wouldn't hurt a fly. And I wouldn't say that there was a lot that the parents had to say about Carmelo, but a lot of the narrative that the media painted, especially in the very conservative media, was that the two of them may have known each other beforehand, and that Carmelo was the aggressor. Let me say this: all of this is developing, and this is an investigation, so it would be irresponsible for us to make any hardcore claims about anything. Everything we're saying is alleged right now.
Yes.
And we are honestly giving our opinions about what happened. And now that I've said that, we just gave you the facts. Here is my opinion.
Okay.
About what happened. When I heard about this story and I saw who had been killed and I saw who is the alleged killer, the first thing I actually was with my cousin. I looked over to her and I was like, there is more to this story. There is something else that's going to come out about this story. You just wait. And part of the reason I knew that is because of experience. When you have been on the other side of people who are always given the benefit of the doubt, and then you attempt to defend yourself, oftentimes you are still seen as the aggressor.
Yes.
And I believe that's what's happening here. But information is coming out now. Students, a parent, we actually just saw or heard a recording from a parent who was there with, I believe, his two daughters who were at the track meet, competing in the track meet, who said that these two boys approached Carmelo while he was sitting under the tent.
Yes.
And it sounds like he was minding his business. He was on his phone. It sounds like they grabbed him. They grabbed his phone. Someone said that they stomped on his phone and he began to defend himself. The parent also said that he saw some punches being thrown from the twins towards Carmelo. And so he went digging in his backpack. Now, one of the students who was sitting under the tent said that Carmelo gave a warning, a verbal warning that said, how did he put it?
He said, hit me again. Either hit me or touch me again.
Touch me again.
See what happens.
That's it. Now, we talked about vernacular.
Yes.
Right? And if I just kept smacking you, right? Even if it was in a playful way, and you said to me, hey, touch me again and see what happens. I would know, all right, he's at his wit's end now.
Yes.
That's a warning. And part of it is because we've grown up in households where, like, that's the language you use.
Yes.
You give certain, like, if somebody said, all right now,
yeah,
you know what that means, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
And so, when I heard what the young man who was giving a testimony said, I was just like, yeah, I think we all know that he was saying, hey, do that again. And it's going down as he's digging in his backpack.
Meaning it has happened before.
That's it. Either that day or before that day.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, another thing we can bring up is that there are students and members of the district, students in the district, who are coming out saying that these boys were known bullies, that they were known bullies. I know that there's this very beautiful, yeah, right. Can we look at the picture of that young man before, and after?
Yeah, so
that's him, right?
Yeah,
and I can tell you what happened. The lawyer went and said, "Hey, I need pictures of Austin."
Yeah,
and they went and found the Boy Scout looking one. Right, his eyes are kind of soft on this picture, but let's go back to the other one.
Yeah,
I see a cross. I see assault rifles. I see something that looks like maybe they are like trying to secure the border without actually being members of border like patrol. Like they seem like those type of people that would go hunting because like Trump told them to protect their borders. I don't know these kids. I don't know their family. And resting because a young man is still gone at the end of the day.
Yes.
A young man is still gone. But when I look at this, I see a caricature of people who believe that America is not great and that it needs to be great again. And this is the way they get back at this. This is heightened masculinity. And they're 17. I'm just sorry. I just wouldn't give my baby an assault rifle. ever, but especially at 17. That's
So
just me.
so this picture is important for me to show because this would be the picture that if Carmelo had out here would be the only picture we would ever see. The thing is that these are the pictures that never get bought up, depending on who they're trying to protect. And so when we show a picture like this is showing like, hey, listen, let's judge off of this, because how many pictures have we had to judge off of Black kid, off of whatever we could deem their worst picture ever?
That's it.
Right? Them doing some cool sign that they think that's not even game related. You know, maybe they hanging out, they doing whatever. We have no idea what it means, but they would say, well, look at that.
Well, Carmelo, they found a picture of him with his middle finger up.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, he's a gangster now.
He's a menace to society.
Have y'all seen Miley Cyrus?
Yeah.
Justin Bieber? Like, what kid doesn't do that,
Exactly.
right? Like stunting for the grand.
Exactly.
No, this is a young man who, according to his community, saved a stranger at a pool from drowning. A little girl, I believe it was, jumped in, right, because he saw that, you know, this little person needed help and pulled him out of the pool, right? A 3-point-something student, a track athlete who was just there. And I what I love about, even before, we still don't know all the details. But even before getting all the details, there was a consensus because of shared experiences in this country. And Black people got together and said, nope, there's more. And we didn't have to know all the details. We didn't have to know him personally, but all of us have been subjected to someone feeling like, once again, they can have agency and control and policing over our bodies and where we sit and what tent we're under. And they went
like the bus back in the day.
You're in front of the bus again.
I think it was Rosa Parks or something like that.
Get off the bus, Rosa.
Yeah.
Imagine feeling so emboldened about a tent that you don't own, that you are willing to get your twin brother, and this is alleged, right? This is a parent who's saying this is what he saw, to roll up on a young man who you decided didn't belong there and tell him he has to go.
Yeah.
And then to put your hands on him when he says that he's not going.
Yeah. Yeah. And
no.
So that's kind of where we are right now. Of course, our opinions is, you know, that's just what they are. They're our opinions from what we see. But we are looking at this and we know. And so when we talked about the vernacular earlier, I saw a supposed lawyer online saying, well, him saying, do it again and see what happens is provocation. I said, no, it's not. That was a warning.
That's it.
Because here's what we know of this area. He went in Frisco. I think the school he went to was a Little M. Was it Little M or
that who went to?
Carmelo went to.
Yes.
The Little M. And the track meet was in Frisco. Let me let you guys know. Those streets aren't rolling with gang members up and down and thugs and that's not that. The knife that he brought with him was for protection of someone he might be around. This was he didn't have this. He didn't have this knife saying, I am going to this track meet to do this. That knife was, if this happens again, I have something to protect me. Because possibly, I don't have a twin brother.
I wouldn't be carrying a knife unless something has prompted me to feel like I needed it.
Exactly. So then to all the people, I just want to hear what you have to say to all the people who said, well, him having a knife was premeditated.
This is Texas. We carry everywhere we go. Right?
And we ain't talking about knives.
And right. And the whole, how y'all have sold this, y'all have sold concealed and open carry, is that in case you end up in a place where a bad man has a gun, a good guy can have a gun. That's how y'all, so not premeditated, right? You don't walk in looking for a bad man.
No. You
have it just in case a bad man shows up with a gun. Now, we could go back to Uvalde where they stood outside for 49 minutes while the bad man had the gun. Not going to go there. But
a whole nother theory on
yes,
that.
a whole nother story.
A whole nother theory on that.
But here's the thing. if he cannot have a knife, a less lethal weapon, for the same reason that most of y'all either open or conceal carry a gun, then we just have to talk double standard. We have to talk about it. That young man, he was there to support he's a runner. He competes in track and field. He was there doing what we all did who played sports. You may not be playing that game, but you got a homie that's playing. So I'm gonna pull up. He had that knife because something taught him at some point in his life that it was safer for him to have it on him. Have it on him.
Yes. So more details are going to come out. I have no doubt in my mind, and I believe more witnesses are going to come out and start talking. And thank you to all the witnesses who have come out and started to talk, because this picture was painted to the point to where Carmelo was this thug, and he came to the track meet to kill Austin. And I do not believe that is the case. But we talked about earlier about the fund that was set up for him, and it was through Give, Send, Go, right? And the reason I'm highlighting Give, Send, Go is because there was an original GoFundMe that was taken down.
That's right.
And it was taken down because they said you cannot use it to support someone who is involved in any type of violent act. And that's funny because they didn't take down the GoFundMe for Cal Rittenhouse. Cal Rittenhouse, who drove across the country to take his gun out and go out and kill a couple people doing some protests.
His mama drove him across state lines.
His mama drove him across state lines. They allowed the Cal Rittenhouse fund to stay up.
That's it.
But they pulled this one. But Give, Send, Go was they were publicly pressed to take this one down, and the CEO said no, we're gonna leave it up.
Shout out to Heather, the founder. I don't know Heather, but like shout out to her for saying like, nah, like this is going to ride, and it's and I again, this was. And I'm not going to even say just Black people, but people who saw it for what it was. That is more to this than just, some Black boy who decided to unalive a white kid. And they got together and they're raising money for his legal fund. Couple dates that I think we should all be watching: April 14th, 9 a.m. That's his bond hearing. The new attorneys. He has 2 new attorneys. They got rid of the first one. They're trying to get a reduced bond because, like you mentioned earlier, it's excessive. $1 million is it's excessive. And they're also trying to get the charge reduced based on evidence that's coming out. Because the other thing we didn't say is that Carmelo was very open and that, like, yes, I did this. I did it. Like when they took him into custody, I think the officer called over the radio, I have the alleged suspect. And he told the officer, I'm not alleged, I did it. But then the other thing he did was told them that it was self-defense, and he asked if Austin was okay.
Yeah.
And that lets me know that he didn't think he killed him.
No. There was compassion even in that moment to say, is he okay?
That's it. Is he going to be okay?
Is he going to be okay?
He didn't even know the young man was dead.
Yeah.
I want this baby home.
Yeah.
I want him home.
And so before anybody goes to try to spin a narrative to say, well, you know what? They're just up here, race baiting or happy that, this kid is that. No. Nobody is happy that this kid has passed away. Nobody is happy that no matter what happens with Carmelo, this is going to be on his conscience, whether he is convicted or not. This is something he's going to have to live with. Nobody is happy that there was an alleged bullying situation that even caused this. What we're saying is the story that is out is a one-sided story. We have not heard from the parents of Carmelo. We are just now hearing from some of the witnesses that are saying that things are a little different than what's painted because it's all been one-sided. And again, Heather of Give, Send, Go has possibly done something that I want us to really take a look at. Shout out to my Black women who told Target we ain't going. Find somebody else to buy your stuff. We mess with who mess with us. And, I know there's gonna be some funerals that's gonna need to be paid for. There's gonna be some families that will need to collect some money, and people ain't gonna be able to get in the ground for a week or two until y'all get the money. Maybe, just maybe, we don't no longer do GoFundMe's. We do Give, Send, Goes. Why? Because Give, Send, Go could have caved to public pressure. And they could have said, well, no, we're not going to do this. Because guess what? If they would have done that, they would have been in the group of the popular opinion and just said, hey, we're off of this. But it takes some bravery for whatever reason to go against the grain.
Absolutely.
And they did. So I'm just saying, if there's ever money to be raised for, and we do more GoFundMe than funerals, but you know how it is. We got to be real with you. Whether it's, you're trying to do other crowdfunding for whatever reason, starting a business, or whatever you're doing, give, Send, Go a look before we go to GoFundMe just because we know the name.
For sure.
Because remember, it was times like this that you get a chance to see who's really messing with you. And Give, Send, Go said, hey, we got you. GoFundMe said no. So let's not forget that. Because I think we want to use platforms like this to be able to highlight those who don't tuck and run at certain times.
Especially right now in this climate. So
yes.
Again, I don't know Heather, but and let me also say, so Give, Send, Go was one of the platforms that Kyle Rittenhouse used too, right? They didn't shut him down. But the fact that like this is what equity looks like, right? This is giving this young man the same type of chance to get help that Kyle Rittenhouse had, right? From his very far right side of the world. And so I don't know Heather, and I don't know if she like want to come to a trail ride or a barbecue. That doesn't matter. What I do know is Heather looked and said, nah, like my platform is equitable and I'm going to keep it as such. And and leaving it right there, I can appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. I don't need nothing more from Heather.
Nothing. Nothing more. Appreciate the equity. That is the E in the DEI. All right, just in case y'all didn't know that. Which we, there's number like 6 or 7 of receiving any DEI treatment anyway, because a lot of people fall above Black people in DEI. But
wait, that's a conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. But you know what, man? I wanted to have I just want to have a conversation with Marlissa and have her on. I appreciate you coming. Was there anything before we go that that just had been on your mind that we could get into, or?
I mean, I saw you put the
segregation
thing up real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I love that Black people are excited about the potential return of segregation. And here's the thing. I don't think that Trump and his buddies are going to get to the point where they're like, hey, you go live over there, right?
It shows like they're trying. It shows seems like they're trying.
I mean, so you talked about the banking system, right?
Yeah,
you can definitely redline. You can do all
you
can gerrymander, all of that. 100%. You can systemically move us into places, right? But what I love that's happening right now, and it's just I'm getting joy from watching it on TikTok, is Black people expressing their frustration with consistent microaggressions in this country. People are like, Black people are excited about segregation. They're excited about potentially being in a place where they don't have to worry about someone asking them, do they belong here?
Yes.
Are you supposed to be here? And that's what I want people to understand. We're joking about it, but that's our way of expressing that we constantly are under attack in this country. And there's this, almost like this glorification or this romanticizing of living a life where you can walk down the street or jog down the street in the morning and you just wave and no one asks oh, what's she doing over here?
Yes.
That's what Black people are celebrating when they're talking about let's bring segregation back.
Yes.
We're just tired.
We're tired.
We're exhausted.
There was a documentary I want to say was done on Open Reference Network about a place in New York called Bar Harbor.
Okay.
Bar Harbor was the only place in the state of New York that Black people could own oceanfront property, right? And so it's a historic area where it's in the Hamptons also, right?
Imagine it.
So the thing is that there was something that was said in that documentary that has stuck with me forever. One of the people said, I believe this is the only place in America that our kids get a chance to actually feel like what it means to be an American. Meaning they can walk down the street and nobody questions them.
Mm-hmm.
They can be out playing and nobody says, why are they playing around here? Because everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
these kids belong here. Nobody trips when they're over here or walking down the street or riding bikes or playing football or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
They get a chance to be them and be free. And I don't think people understand the level of stress that happens without you knowing, of being in a situation, like you said, where microaggressions can come in, where people can just look at you and see and say, you know what, you are a threat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the biggest threats for a black man, the worst place you can be is in the tears of a white lady. And people will say, oh my God, what do you mean? Rosewood,
Mm-hmm.
Black Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Whole towns have been burned down because somebody cried and said, hey, he touched me.
What the bird watcher? What was his name?
Listen, I don't know his name, but I'm gonna say this, and you guys who follow the last podcast, I said it once and I said it 1,000 times. Probably the least threatening black man is some Negro looking at birds.
My man was bird watching.
He was bird watching.
Didn't he work for the National Geographic, or he was on the board or something like that? And what he said was, hey, your dog should be leashed.
Yes.
And it wasn't because he was afraid of the dog. It was just common courtesy amongst a portion of the park where people bird watch. That's all he was saying.
And really, it doesn't all cities have a leash code? So I mean, pretty much he was stating kind of like the law, probably, right?
Just put your dog. He said, you need to leash your dog.
Yeah.
That's all he was saying. And thank God he turned his phone on.
Yes.
Because we saw her go from 0 to 100. She was calm. She was talking to him. She's big in the chest when she was talking to him. When she got on the phone with them police officers, it was a river.
That's it. And we know once that happens. So I was on a group call with a bunch of men, and we were recording this to put it out. We were talking about if something had happened in the world, it was one of the tragedies probably. And we all got together to do the Zoom call. And we were talking. And the conversation was cool, and I was like, "Okay, guys, listen. Let's be real. Let's talk real here. Have you ever?" I said, "All of us are individuals who are intelligent. We're business owners. We are career driven. We have families, whatever the case may be. Have you ever been in a situation where you got scared because you were in the presence of a white lady?" And all of them said, "Oh my God." One guy said, I got in the car. I walked behind this white lady toward the store. We walked in the door together. She made a left. I made a left. She went down and made a right. I made a right because I was going to the bathroom. But he said, I got nervous. And I stopped and started looking at chips like I was shopping to let her go.
Oh, they got kettle.
So she doesn't feel that I'm following her. Another guy says, I was walking behind a white lady. And I started jingling my keys so that she knew I was there, which is a slave tactic, which is why they would make you carry lanterns so they can see if you congregate together, so they would know where you are. They put bells and things on you so they would know. He said subconscious. I started jingling my keys so that she wouldn't turn around and freak out.
That is epigenetics at its finest.
Yes,
at its finest.
So the stress level of just being, sometimes these are things that you don't have to think about if you don't have to go through it, which is why I am so big on, I can't stand to see women be uncomfortable, right? When I see skits and pranks online that act like they're threatening the bodily harm of a woman, it drives me crazy. Because I tell guys all the time, you have no idea what it feels like to walk in a dark place and wonder, to see a van and wonder that's parked next to me. I said, because a man's mind is, I wish somebody would jump out. It's going to take 2 or 3 to get me. A woman knows that it don't take 2 or 3, and he ain't even got to be that big. His natural fit. I said, I'm telling you, we can never experience it, but you have to realize everywhere she goes, she's wondering, Is that alley? Is that walkway too dark? Who's that? Is somebody with me? Is my phone? Do I have my keys stuck between my fingers so I can punch?
Extra processing that she's doing all day long. Yeah.
The only way I thought about that was because of the conversation we had as men.
Yes.
Of how I said, wait a minute, it's the same thing in another
level.
The
fact that you were able to make the connection is huge.
That's a stress.
And so think about it for Black women, right?
Yes.
You have both. Like when you get dressed, especially if you're in corporate, right? How does my hair look? Is this too tight? Is it too form fitting? You know, Black women have figures, right? Like, and so there's all those decisions she has to make before she even gets out the door. And then you get into the office and the microaggressions are just coming daily, right? Constantly throughout the day. And then you're walking, you know, say you get off late and you see a van. So you're doing all this other processing to make sure that you can get home safely. And this is why there are so many medical professionals who say that stress is one of the main like causes of chronic disease and like major systemic issues with us, because we are doing all that extra processing all day long. So by the time you get done for the day, you only want to watch Netflix. You don't want to go to the gym. Like you're exhausted because your brain has been going from the moment you opened your eyes, from the moment you. And so, I like you said something earlier that really got me, and you were like, what if they just left us alone for a while?
Oh yeah.
That is the romanticizing that Black people are doing over segregation. Is all of a sudden I don't have to spend another 20 or 30% of my mental capacity making all of these decisions to make sure I'm not threatening and that I'm not too much. Right. That's why we're happy. And I know like it seems like jokes, but y'all gotta see under that. The jokes are because there is this dream world that we're creating where it's just like, damn, life could be simple.
To be left alone.
It could be simple.
Leave us the hell alone. Because guess what? We've seen too many places in time and history where we were minding our own damn business, and then somebody said, it's the scene from Belly. I don't like that shit. I don't like that. And it's like, they are too happy over there because honestly, it drives people crazy that y'all see us in this quote unquote low downtrodden state and we're throwing a barbecue and we're partying. It's like, how do they do this? Which is why, as the world seems to be falling down around us, we're trying to figure out where them fans at.
Got my boots on the ground.
We learning line dances. They've started a whole Hillman TikTok, and ladies are going to school and getting college credits. And
I started a garden.
Y'all can have it.
Yeah,
because every time we have shown up to the fight, as soon as the fight was over, you kicked us down. You put us at the bottom, and you said, "Hey, go back where you belong." So if we're going to be in that space anyway, why go out and fight?
My yoga instructor would say, stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
Exactly.
And this is on November, what was it, 4th? What day was the election? 6th, whatever it was. I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken because as a Black woman who has absolutely done all the things America told me to do, right? To be in the place where I can serve and I can lead and all that. I have even been shut down in places in corporate and like, nah, not you. Overqualified, willing to do the job, and have been told no. And so I looked at Kamala Harris, and don't get me wrong, I was never like a Kamala Harris super fan or anything like I said, I'm a populist, but I knew she was willing. I knew she was capable. I knew she was competent.
Okay.
And America still looked at her and was like, nah, we good.
Oh yeah.
We'll take this. And so my heart hurt for her, but also for us. And it was one of the greatest discussions I ever had with other people who are, trying to lead the charge of spreading information, where we all said, yeah, we're gonna sit this one out.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I woke up the next morning and I felt lighter. I was just like, this is gonna be nice.
You were relieved of not so much your duty, but your self-guilt to want to go out and perform.
That's it.
And so, you know what? I'm going to give myself license to sit down. And I'm going to tell you, and guess what? I support him 100%. Please sit down. Sisters, sit down. Relax. Keep doing what you're doing. And guess what? I understand right now you didn't got Target at 15 billion losing, and I don't know who the next target gonna be, and I mean that literally, who y'all pointing your finger at. But just let us know where we're going next, all right? Because we do know that no matter who makes the most money or whatever, that even in a household with a man and a woman, the woman controls the purse strings,
That's
right?
That's it.
So if she says, "Hey, we ain't doing this," guys like, "All right, cool."
And that's
We
one
good.
decision y'all ain't got to
Oh,
make.
yeah,
So I don't know no men that's gonna fight that.
What we doing?
Right.
Why? Because we are making sure that we are recognizing that it is the FUBU mentality. It has to be for us, by us, because nobody is coming to save us. And I under the premise of the Issa Rae quote, I'm rooting for everybody black, and I have no problem with saying that. And Heather, shout out to you, Heather. I have no problem saying that, because here's the thing: nobody roots for us. Nobody stands in our corner as a mass. And that's not to diminish the people who have stood up and put their neck on the line. I'm not saying it. I'm saying as a mass public, nobody comes to our defense. And to even as we're to close this out, nobody comes to our defense even when they experience the same thing we experience. I've said it once. I've said it twice. We have the NAACP. The Hispanics have LULAC. I would routinely go to both pages when something would happen. NAACP said brown and black. LULAC said brown. I'm not mad at them for sticking up for them. I'm mad that we don't stick up for us. Stop including everybody else. We the only people going around looking for diversity. And I don't mean diversity in places that you are excluded where you know you should be. I'm talking about diversity in our own stuff, because we can't look at each other and say we are enough. There's something internally that has been messed up in us to where I can't look and say, you know what? Ain't nobody here for black folk? Oh, I'm good. Because we see it in comedy. Oh man, I made it. There's white people out here. Right? We see once we get that validation. Oh yeah, get out the hood. Once we get that validation. How many awards you won? Well, I won 14 Grammys and 3 Oscars. I thought I just saw you at the BET, the NAACP. Oh yeah, I got them too. Them don't even count to you.
Can I say, when Will Smith slapped the dog shit out of Chris Rock, which I was here for. It was a moment for me. Thank you, Will. One of the things that I loved about that moment was, after everything happened, people hit me up, because I was publicly supporting what Will Smith had done.
Yeah.
Right. I believe that if you could tell that joke on national television, you can get these hands on national television. And people was like, no, he shouldn't have done it like that. He should have taken him to the side. I was like, no, that's y'all problem. Y'all are always trying to appease people who didn't even want you there. We were just talking about Oscar So White a couple of years ago. And now we're worried about how he handled a joke that should have never been told in mixed company in the first place.
Yeah.
I loved that even though Will Smith was the golden boy, right? He could do no wrong. He showed that this some things are sacred and should have been kept between us. And he had that moment and went on about his life. And I love that, like, he didn't fall into the narrative of, oh my God, what are they going to think? I shouldn't have done it. I should have handled it different. No. He didn't care about the respectability politics. And that's our problem. A lot of us want to be accepted in these spaces so bad that we're willing to lay pieces of ourselves, that we're willing to pick pieces of ourselves off to go into these spaces. And I just think it's ridiculous, because at the end of the day, if they don't want you there, they're not going to invite you anyway.
True.
True. Again, we were just talking Oscar So White, and now y'all worried about whether or not he can get these hands.
Because we didn't want to go a while ago. Now you're worried about they're gonna have us back. We remember we just didn't want to go.
We just protested. Didn't he host that year?
He did.
Yeah.
And on top of this, y'all do know that the nominations for Black actresses and actors only goes up when the ratings of the Oscars have been low, because they know
they need y'all.
And so if you see it, there's a cycle. when they start talking about nobody's watching the Oscars, all of a sudden, all these black actors and actresses get nominated because while we come in, the ratings are back up.
See,
and then they say, "All right, cool." They do us like they did the CW and the WB.
Y'all go run up Sinners and y'all go run up The Encampments. All right, go support those two movies and call it what it is.
That's what it is. Listen, thank you so much for coming through. I do appreciate you for having this conversation, coming in and being able to, take some time with me. It like I said, it's been a long time coming.
That's real. We're gonna have to do something else.
We got to do something else. I definitely continue to follow you on social media. Make sure you go to Instagram. It is I Drink Politics. Okay. I Drank Politics. So make sure you go follow Marlissa on there because I promise you, you're gonna learn something. I do. I definitely go on there. I do definitely follow her. She might be bringing back the 5 things you need to know. We got our fingers crossed. We heard it right here on the last podcast.
Yeah, I got a little setup. And
you know what? Here's the one thing I know about content creating is work. So for her to admit that she might do it, then she just signed herself up for more work.
It's been on my heart. But so here's what that means. I got to get up and get my workout in early so I can be home to record.
Got you.
So that's how I was getting it done. Like I would get up, get my run in, and then I was like, all right, I'm already up. Might as well record this. So yeah, you're gonna make me, really push that Planet Fitness membership. And I don't know if I come back sexy with 5 things, this is because my boy he told me to get it done. So
listen. So we'll look forward to that. But either way, make sure to go out and follow her. I Drank Politics. Make sure you continue to follow the Last Podcast and all the things we have on Facebook. It is the Last Podcast 1. On Instagram is _the Last Podcast, and on TikTok is just the Last Podcast. So we'll see you guys next week. So make sure to stay tuned. Also, make sure you keep Shannon and her family in your prayers for everybody who continues to follow the show. I know she would have loved this conversation because politics is her thing, and I get all these text messages like, "Did you see this? Did you see this?" So we'll definitely make sure to send not condolences, but our shout outs to her, our heartfelt prayers her way, and we'll see you next week. Now here's the thing: the only way we will not see you next week is if we said something that made this the last podcast.